All right. Welcome to the Swedish Junior Hockey Podcast. Today's guest is someone that has taken a little bit of a different route, not the most common one. First player in Mestis in Finland, but Malte Hasselgren, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
So you have to get back. You can't speak any Finnish in this episode, but you're one of the guys that we identified on Elite Prospects that played in the NAHL, and we definitely want to talk about that. It's kind of the main topic of today. But of course, you're now playing in Mestis in Finland, so we want to talk about that as well. So,
yeah, sounds great.
So who's Malte Hasselgren? I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself here first.
Yeah, so I'm a 2002 from Gävle. So started off in Brynäs youth organization and been a couple of clubs since then. But last year I was in Oklahoma, and as you said, now I'm in Mestis with Forza Pallisaura. But 20 years old from Gävle.
And also brother plays J18 in Falun.
Yeah, so I got actually have three brothers. All of them played hockey, and one still plays, obviously, and one is actually a coach in Brynäs U16, and the other one was actually a goalie. So he was not like the rest of us.
That's Adam, I believe, right?
Yeah, that's Adam. Yeah.
Yep. I'm quick with the clicks on Elite Prospects here. I got it open.
Yeah,
so let's start off, as a Leksand guy, Brynäs, not a big fan, but no, I am a fan of Brynäs. But how did you end up, you played your juniors in Falun, awesome town. I know them well. My son played there, and incredible city, just a quaint place. Tell me about how you ended up there.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously I played for Brynäs up till I was 14. Didn't make the TV-pucken, which is, well-known tournament. And the TV-pucks team is going on to be Brynäs U16. So, one day I got a text message who made the summer kind of troop. And I wasn't on there. So a little rude awakening. It's always tough to get those kind of decisions, and you have this perfect dream that you want to, I'm gonna make that team, then I'm gonna make U18, and move up in Brynäs. That was always the dream from growing up. But get that text, and you look around and be like, okay, let's figure out something else right now to keep moving on. Keep moving forward always. So it was a nice time in my life, though, I will say, getting that reaction from TV-puck. And I know it's such big focus for a lot of players in Sweden, like coming up. But for me, I was very small. So what I did was, get a gym card and started working out with a weightlifting guy who actually was an Olympian, a former Olympian. And then obviously I found Strömsbro, started with them early and really liked playing there. I got nothing but great things to say about them too. But my brother played in Falun at that time. So he played for a second U18 team at that time. And I get a call from their coach, like the coach that he had, he just said that they wanted to look at me for next year, if I wanted to come up, just for a tryout for next year for hockey gymnasium here in Sweden. So I did, and I had a great practice, to be honest with you. I was pretty happy after my dad took me up, so it was nice to see my brother again. But get a call the week after that, if I was open for it and if my parents wanted, to let me move, I could come there early for the U16 year. So I did. Absolutely loved it. And decided to stay for 2 more years there after that season.
So where did you live in Falun? Because I mean, so for those who don't know, I mean, Gävle to Falun is what, maybe an hour?
Yeah, an hour.
Yeah. So you go through Valbo, and then you get then you get to Hofors through
Yeah.
the pipe foundry there, and then you get to Falun, and it's an old, my dad did his military service there. My brother went to school in Falun. I went to Borlänge when I was gymnasium, but just it's an old town. But so where did you live?
Yeah, so my brother obviously already had the apartment there, so I kind of squeezed in, got a bed, a couple of meters from his. So I think he wasn't happy about that in the beginning, but I lived in a place called Helsingegården, I think. So it's like 7 minutes biking outside of, the main centrum. So I think I had 10 minutes biking to Lugnet Seasal,
Yeah,
the skating rink. So it
uphill.
was good for me. Yeah, uphill. It was only uphill from that point, actually. It was brutal, actually.
Yeah, I remember my son complaining that he had a flat. He grew up over here, and funny thing, for me growing up, you get a flat on your bike, well, you just fix it. Well, no, so
Yeah.
I ended up, I don't know how much money I spent on the kick bikes, because he would get kick bikes instead. Uh, I don't know if they had him back then in Falun, but
Yeah, they did. They did. I know what you mean.
yeah. Anyway, so good time there. And what was your studies in school?
I studied economics with like focus on law.
Okay, so not the vocational, not big, or heating and air conditioning, or painting, or electrician.
I was never in engineering of any kind, so I stick to what I knew.
Yeah, but I mean, out of those guys that you played with, how many of those went to the not the college preparatory side? Of they take the easy route. I mean, I'm sure some of them did, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, probably half the team, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So, I mean, you must have been pretty good in school.
Yeah, I was all right. My parents said that as one of the things I had to do if I moved, to manage the school good.
Good, 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 good. All right. Fast forward a little bit. Then you ended up moving. So you got some playing time, both J18, J20, and they were in playing in Division 2. Now they're moved up to Division 1 this year. But and I'm assuming that were you mainly practicing with the J18s, or were you practicing with the J20s and as well?
I mean, it was kind of like a messy situation in the beginning of the season because I know that the senior team, or the pro team or whatever, semi-pro at that point, the Division 2 wanted to have me full time and then only play a couple of games with the junior U18 and stuff like that. Uh, but I actually thanked no to that because I wanted to I wanted to make the most out of my juniors here, right? Like I can play at that level when I grow up, but I only get, U18 years, twice of them. So I decided to just stick to U18 and U20 at that point.
That's kind of a surprising move, but I think you did okay. So 1920 year, you played in J18 Elite, which is now called Region, against. I mean, let's be frank here. Not shabby opponents. Leksand, Färjestad, Örebro, Mora, Västerås, Brynäs.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's especially before Christmas. It's a pretty competitive league to be honest with you.
Yeah. What little chip on your shoulder that you got passed
Yeah.
over by those teams?
What?
A little chip on your shoulder because you got passed over by those teams and they didn't choose you, and here I am, I'm lighting it up against those teams.
Yeah, I mean that's always what you think about. Like you love playing against a coach who overlooked you or something like that. Like to be honest with you, I actually won the scoring league before Christmas. But we had Brynäs, as the last game before Christmas, and I wanted to beat Brynäs so bad because I got passed on and stuff like that, and it still sticks with you, right?
Yep.
That's the motivation that you have. You just want to prove them all wrong that I'm still here. So it was kind of like a little race at the end with some other guys, but Had a 3-point night against Brynäs the last game, so kind of sealed it for me. But unfortunately, we lost 5-3, and I can probably tell you that was the toughest loss in a couple of years for me.
Yeah. But 34 games, 50 points in J18, 20 games, 25 points in J20, and so on. But then you made a decision here, 2021, to move to Huddinge down in Stockholm. What was that all about?
It was not planned, actually. I signed with Brahmas pretty early, like May, I think it got announced.
I see.
So my eyes were set there, and then COVID hit, obviously. So I was like, I needed to wait to get like to an embassy time to get my, B1, B2 visa, but they just kept canceling it. So my old coach, that he was in Falun, he moved to Huddinge, and said, you know what, start with us down here, So I did that, and I think it was in November, I finally got over to US on an ESTA, which is like a tourist visa. So
So was Wildfang there when you were with the Brahmas?
yeah, Wildfang was the head coach. Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about that. So I didn't know that was kind of the route here, but what made you decide to go play in the NAHL?
Honestly, like I always had that interest. Like I actually was to Odessa's main camp, Odessa Jackalopes, the year before. So like the summer to my second U18 year. So when I was in Falun, back then my parents thought it was a little bit too early to let me go. I didn't even finish second year of high school, back in Sweden. So it didn't happen that year, unfortunately. So had a good year with Falun, and Wildfang came up in the discussion, so I choose to sign there. And I always wanted to go the college route, which is funny, to look back where I'm sitting right now.
All right. Well, so let me back up a little bit with that, because a lot of people that are in your position, they're just not even aware of the American juniors. And how was that like, did you have other people in front of you that kind of paved the way, that you followed, that got the interest up? Or how did you know about North American Hockey League at that age?
Yeah, I mean, I'm honestly such a big hockey nerd. It was honestly the only thing I did in school to be an elite prospect. So I knew about it, and I was like, I could watch on a team and then go to their team Instagram to, check out locker rooms, check out team buses and stuff like that. Like I was obsessed with it. So when I finally felt like I was ready to take the step and Brahmas came up in the discussion, it was a no-brainer for me. I just jumped on it, really.
So what was it? I was just talking to Gabbe from Mora, and he was which will be aired right before your episode. So what was your experience the first time with the Jackalopes? So you went over. Was that the first time in the U.S.?
Yeah, it was the first time in US too.
So who went? You and your dad?
Me, my agent, and my sister came down actually. So my parents went over to visit her when I was there too.
Oh, was she already
Uh,
in the U.S.?
yeah, she lives in US actually.
Oh,
So
okay. All right.
that's
So not as big of a conceptually as big of a step
no,
because she was
no,
already
no.
over there.
Yeah. No, I mean it was good. I had a good camp and I really liked it. I had a good talk with their staff too. So I was interested to go, but I think my parents already made a decision. So I think it was in that situation, it was more of a learning point for me, to
Yeah.
figure out how the game is and how hard guys in the NAHL can hit, really.
How was it? How was it? What was the first thing? Because we, been through the main camp, and for those who've never been to a main camp, what was the first? How many people were there actually? How many teams did they have in Odessa?
Yeah, so if I remember right, we were 10 teams, I think. So it was about 200 players, and we played 2 days, and then it got down to, I would say, like 50 players or something
Yeah.
like that,
Yeah.
to 4 teams or something like, so maybe 80. But it got down to 10 to 4 and to 2. So the All-Star game, obviously. So I mean, it's a big thing. Like many people might think that, oh, go to main camp, make the team. It's it's a long route from main camp even.
Yeah, and I mean, so were you already aware of? Had you been prepped on how it works at the main camp, and that there's nobody there making friends?
No, I was not aware of that. I had a rude awakening. I mean, I gotta be honest with you. Like, I will I will give Sweden a lot of courage for having that team spirit. And I wasn't expecting everybody to be like a team or something like that. But it was like my first time being in a very, very, very competitive. Only see yourself, and I'm making the team. I don't give a shit about who else is here. It was my first time being like in such an environment. So it was different for me. I will say that.
And then, of course, you're so right now you are 5'9", 165. So it's not like you're the big guy, right?
No,
So they
no.
see you as an opportunity, and like, tell me about the physicality of going from, J20
Yep.
and then going over to, I mean, age-wise the same,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
or let's talk about
It's
age
1 year
first.
older.
Yeah. So if that was your first year, you were J18, and there were some guys that were 20.
Yeah. So they were turning 21 that season, and I was turning like 17 that year when I
Yeah.
was there on main camp.
Yeah. So they see you as fresh bait here.
Oh, they saw me as fresh bait. I had my chrome cage on, Ufagaller in Swedish. I was like hyped up. So they saw me as bait. But if I remember correctly, I actually had a really nice goal, and I remember somebody coming up to me and goes like, "You look so European." And I was just like, okay, thank you.
But you
But
made,
it
so
was a
you
good
made,
experience.
yeah. So you made the first cut,
Yep.
and then you were offered a spot, right?
No, I was never offered a spot. We kind of had exit meetings, and like it was more like keep it open for the future, right?
Okay.
And I was fine with that too, like, because I didn't want to. There was a small possibility that I might start in NA3, and because they wanted to kind of developed me into that, and I was not excited about any free or anything, and I think I made the right decision by staying in
Totally.
U22.
Well, let's address that as well. So when they offer, they always do this. Like every
Yeah.
NAHL team has an NA3 team, or I'm assuming most of them do, or same organization. And North American Hockey League is tuition free. NA3 is not.
No, it's very expensive actually.
Yeah. So here you are, the fees in Falun, who may be,
So,
$800 a
yeah,
year.
$800 season or something like that. Yeah.
And then you're looking at, so if you were in Odessa, they're in NA3 teams, and it would have been probably, I don't know, 12,
10,000.
15,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. 12 plus billets and stuff like that. And like, I'm not ashamed to say that I didn't make their team, or stuff like that. I'm not. I can mention about my story. I can tell them that, yeah, I got cut from that main camp, or
Yeah.
I didn't make TV Pucken, because that always been my life, kind of like being overlooked. Starting early when you're 14.
Yeah.
Playing for a smaller U18 team. So I never been like shy talking about my road, because never been one of those high touted names where, everybody talks about you being a talent or something like that. For me, it's always been, coming back to earning everything, and trying to work hard on everybody else. Because at the end of the
Love it.
day, I think that's the only thing you can do, really.
Yeah. I love it.
I mean, some guys would probably be a little, embarrassed sitting here and talking how they got caught, offered in any free spot or something like that. I got no problem with that.
So second year coming back, then now you're going through COVID and getting your ESTA and da. And finally you get there. So you didn't go to Lone Star's main camp.
No, I was not over for training camp or anything.
So they knew you. So did Wildfong or his staff? It was probably um yeah, know some of those guys there, but they looked at you at the camp in Odessa, or how did they know that they wanted
No,
you?
no, no. They saw me through videos, and they had a Swedish scout at that point too.
Oh yeah, that's right. He's no longer with
So
them, but
I don't really know, but he was looking at my game, and it's actually funny. Like, I got there in December, I think, start of December. So me and my brother signed a tender contract at the same time. This is what you can't read on Elite Prospect, though. So we came there at the same time, on an ESTA. We had, good time. I mean, Wild Fung is a good coach, but like very, disciplined and stuff like that. Like stuff I was not used to.
he's a hard ass.
He is a hard ass. Like he's a great coach. Like, and everybody that knows North South, it's it's not like Sweden U18. I tell you that. So 1 month in, my my brother gets called into, like assistant coach comes into, like, we had a different room because I wasn't in the lineup. I wasn't even eligible to play yet. Like, it was like beginning of January, right? I've been there just practicing, trying to learn the game. So my transfer fee wasn't done even. So me and my brother just been practicing with the team and stuff like that. So we kind of had our own little setup, like before the locker room. Like, we had our own little room. And I remember the assistant coach coming in and be like, Philip, Dan wants to talk to you. So I'm sitting there like, why did Dan just call in my brother to the coaching room? Like, it's usually never a good stuff.
Was that
So
Ryan? Was that Ryan Anderson or?
no, it was oh, I should White White we called him Whitey. I feel embarrassed right now. He's a scout
It's all
for
right.
Montreal Canadiens.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, but we called him Whitey at that point. So my brother comes back out. He's been into the room, and he actually got cut. So also that, like, you're coming with family, like my brother, to Brahmas and stuff like that. And to be honest with you, it's such a different business side of the sport, at juniors, in Sweden contra US. Like, they cut players, they bring in new guys. Like, there's no, like, when you get to a U20 team, you usually have your spot in Sweden. That's how it works.
Yeah.
In US, the rent is due every day. You need to perform every day. So that was, tough rude awakening too when my brother got caught, obviously. But I actually started to play. So I started to play in February, and it was pretty crazy. Like, I was still like kind of like I was still, maybe scratch slash, that extra forward. But I played my first game against Wichita Falls, which also became Oklahoma Warriors, and my future team. But I didn't know that at that point, obviously. So I scored my first goal actually against my future team, Oklahoma. So we laughed about that this year, obviously. But and then I had to go out of US to return, so I had to go out. I was in Istanbul actually, so I spent 22 hours straight on the airport. Like, I had nowhere to go in Turkey, so like like I got in Thursday, like late, and then I, obviously went back on Saturday, I think.
Why
To
Turkey? Why didn't you just go across the border into Mexico?
So I didn't know really how it worked. I only knew that Turkey had worked before, so it's just like, we'll go to Turkey again and come back. So it was like 22 hours just staying awake, at the airport. It's memories, right? But it's a
Yeah.
part of the junior hockey story.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. But so then uh and then COVID hit. Was that
No,
at the
COVID
end?
hit actually before,
Okay.
COVID. Like, I went there the COVID year when Sweden shut down, obviously.
But
Uh,
it was not shut down in the US at that time.
I would say Texas was very open,
Oh
how
yeah,
they,
that's
managed it and stuff like that. So we had like full stands and stuff like that. Like, we had a lot of fans in the attendance and stuff like that. So it was still cool.
yeah. What do you think about that? Like the Nitex Arena, it's a pretty cool place. right?
Yeah, I mean it's a good setup. It's a great size for junior hockey, obviously, and we had a nice locker room and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
it was good. It was
yeah.
good.
All right, and then how did you then end up 21-22 back into Sweden?
Yeah, so to be honest with you, I had a really rough time my first session in the NAHL. I like Dan as a coach. Like he's a very smart guy and a very good coach. So I liked him, but I struggled. I struggled a lot.
Yeah,
Uh, so I was not excited about going back. Like I was have to go through the same stuff, trying to, get ESTA and then maybe get back to an embassy to, get visa. Like it would have been a long process, and in the middle of the process, like Oskarshamn, they reached out, and at that point I was, still, excited. I felt excited to try the Swedish U20. So
yeah. So then you go. I mean, that's so. How does that compare? You go in Oskarshamn, awesome organization, SHL team, J20 national, not a top J20 national team, but you're now playing in the. I mean, again, you're used to being not on a great team, but similar
yeah,
situation, but you're playing against the best.
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
so how, first of all, how was the game different in J20 National versus Lone Star Brahmas in the NAHL South?
Honestly, I can't even compare it. It's like two different worlds. Like
Yeah,
it's completely different in every aspect of the game. Like I always say this, like a lot of people can come up and ask me like, how would you compare the Swedish U20 to NAHL?
yeah,
Which is like it's a fun comparison, right? And I always said that obviously there's more draft picks, there's more skilled guys coming out of the U20, right? It's a younger league too, obviously. So like the high end skills is obviously better in Super Elite, but I would also say that it's at least 5 times harder to play in the NAHL. Just the game.
yeah. And the physicality and the grind and the pressure.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's a grind. Like I'm not gonna be honest with you. Like Super Elite teams, I gotta be honest with you. Like Super Elite teams, they treat you very well,
Yeah.
and Null team does too. Like don't get me wrong there, but I came to Null and it was 10 hours bus rides and stuff like that, and you don't have as much of that in the U20 national. And I was fortunate enough, when I came to Oklahoma, we had a sleeper bus.
Okay.
It was really nice, but you're still, you're playing a game. You're done on Saturday at like 10. You get a little pizza in you, that's the post game meal and all. And then you head back and you're home at like 7 or 8 in the morning, and like the whole Sunday is destroyed. I mean, your body is exhausted. I mean, the travel in North South is probably one of the bigger grinds that I've ever been a part of.
Because you're playing Louisiana Mudbugs, you're playing all the way into Oklahoma. I mean the South, it's
Yeah,
it spans a
you're
pretty big area.
yeah, you're going to New Mexico, and I think we were on the roads for like the first month of the season. So we were down in Corpus, we're down in Shreveport. We had New Mexico too, I think, in that stem. So it was like you're going all over, and it's like Shreveport, obviously 6 hour ride, so it wasn't bad. But like Corpus, 10 hours, New Mexico, 11. I mean, it was pretty rough to be honest with you, coming from
Yeah.
Sweden. But I can look back at that now and be like, it was a great time with the boys.
Yeah.
Like some of the guys would set up like PS5 in the back and bring TVs. So at the moment you can see it as a grind, but like looking back now, it was a great time in my life.
Yeah. So and then you ended up in Brynäs J20 National. So a little bit of coming home, and how was that call?
Uh, Honestly, like, yeah, it's weird. Like, I get the call around Christmas. They actually were last in the Super Elite Nora, Super Elite North, obviously. So they had a rough season, and I guess they saw me as a guy with the Gavle connections, obviously in Brynäs. So I get a call around Christmas, and at that point, like I didn't have a great season in Oskarshamn. I was struggling a little bit, and it was also like you're living in a billet family in US, and then you're going 6 hours away from your home in Sweden. You live alone, new city, new people. Like it's big adjustments for sure. But I was also like, when I get that call, I was just like, let's come home, kind of, finish it up with juniors in Sweden, and give it a chance in Brynäs, and try to help them as much as I could, because I knew they were, in a bad place, obviously,
Yeah.
because they're supposed to be, a top team in U20. So they had a little down year. So it was fun to come home, live home, close to family, and they could see me play again. So it was still a cool experience. And at the same time, I got redemption, right? Like I got a little redemption for them cutting me when I was 14, and coming back when I was 19. So it's still redemption for me.
And I have to ask too, before you got to Brynäs, 51 PIMs in Oskarshamn.
Yeah,
happy?
I don't know how that happened. Like I was leading it for a while too, like after a couple of games, and it was like I think it was the Null South kind of like, okay, this would be allowed in Null South. Well, it wasn't in U20 national back in Sweden.
You were setting illegal picks, and you were doing cross checks, and you're like, what?
Yeah, I think we had our first league game was against Växjö, and I had 4 penalty minutes, and just like shitty penalties, but in North South they wouldn't call it. So I was so used to like, oh, we can do a cross check here and we can slash a guy there, but they didn't. They took pretty seriously on those stuff in Sweden. So.
All right, good. All right, so and then you go back. So how did you end up? Did you seek yourself back to Oklahoma or in the Null, or how did you go back? What made you go back? Because I mean, certainly, you're growing up, so you got another year. Now you kind of check that mark of playing J20 Nationals. So I'm sure a lot of people had you on their radar, and they saw that you've already played in the Null. And certainly they got awarded 58 games. They went you went to Blaine in the playoffs, 46 points. Did you lead the team? I need to look at that.
No, I did not lead the team. We had a guy, Joey Del Greco. He's currently with the Chicago Steels. He led the team.
Oh yeah.
So we had a stacked team, and it's so crazy to look back at. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, North South ain't an easy league to put up high numbers in, like in goals, per team. And we were scoring most in the Null, and we were playing in the North South. We're playing against the Brahmas, we're playing against the Shreveport. Like they're tough teams to play, right?
And old teams too. I mean, mainly last year or 2 more years of eligibility. There's not a lot of young guys in North South.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, like, I gotta give credit to teams like Brahmas and Shreveport too, because during the season I absolutely hated them, like playing them. But that's also how it should be, right?
Yeah.
So it's a competitive league. But yeah, how I got there. So the day after I signed my tender agreement with the Brahmas, head coach of Wichita Falls, that would later remodel to Oklahoma, Garrett Roth, reached out and was just like, hey, do you want to come play for us in the Null? And I was just like, sorry, like you're a day late. Like I already signed my tender agreement, unfortunately. So I think I kept a little bit of, my agent kept a little bit of contact with him during the season. And I think I was just like, yeah, I want to give Null a new chance. Like I'm older, I'm a different player. I've got a couple of kilos with muscles on too. So I wanted to give it a chance again. And I talked to Roth a little bit. So it's a funny story actually how I got drafted to Oklahoma Warriors, because at the same time I was talking to Oklahoma, Chippewa reached out and they were just like, we really like you, so we might take you in the second round here. and Chippewa had their second round pick before Oklahoma second in the second round. So, and Oklahoma told me they would pick me with their second pick too, right? So if they would have done that, I would have got to Chippewa because, you know, I would have been taken. So I write to Roth. I'd be like, hey, I think Chippewa is going to take me with their second pick. And Roth answers me with, yeah, I mean, then we can't take you because they have the pick before us in the second round. So I didn't think more of that. I was just like, you know, it's a jungle, right? You're coming off, you're talking to one team, you're talking to another. You don't really know anything about the teams, right? But the draft goes down, and Oklahoma's up like 25th, I think, in the first round. And I'm not thinking that I'm going to get picked, right? I'm just following a little bit on my phone. But Oklahoma ended up taking me in the first round. So I ended up in Oklahoma still. So I was very thankful for that too. So, but Roth always.
Yeah, you probably didn't hurt your own your situation by sending that text.
No, and Roth laughed at it, you know, the whole year. He was just like, were they really interested and we're supposed to pick you, or you just played your cards right because you wanted to be a first rounder?
But all right,
No,
before
but yeah.
For those who don't know that process, you had a tender agreement with NAHL, but then did you get released by them, or
Yeah,
how did you end up being eligible for the draft the following year?
Yeah, so I think you have to play like 12 games on one season to be carried on over to, like, I think it's called like saved players or something like that.
Yeah,
Saved players.
You're
like,
protected players.
Protected players. And I did that, obviously. I played more than 12 in Brahma, so they had my rights to the next year. But I didn't play any games that year, so then my rights goes lost again.
Okay.
And I was open for every team.
Yeah. I mean, I just think it's that you're talking about being a jungle, and you know, a lot of the teams are having training camps this week, as a matter of fact, now for the NAHL teams, and you know, they may have been a draft pick, or they may have been a tender, they may have been a returner, and you go into training camp, and then they get, like your brother, you get cut, and that tender, that draft pick, that spot you had from before doesn't matter.
It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't matter if you're a first rounder, you're a 12th rounder, you know, you're a high touted prospect, you know, a young prospect in the league. They don't care. You know, like, yeah, that draft pick got you an invite to training camp. But like from you get to training camp, it's on you. It's not on anybody else. And I respect the shit out of NAHL for that, because it's such a high competitive league, and you don't get free passes.
No,
you don't get free passes in all. Like, you're not good enough, you're gone.
Well, and wouldn't you say that kind of benefited you too? Because if it was the opposite, you may not have gotten the shot.
Yeah, for sure.
And I mean, it benefits guys like you that grind and that drives, and nothing's given to you. So you're going to say, I'm going to take it, which means I'm taking it for somebody else.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's also how it works. Like, you know, I might look at a guy, you know, at main camp and be like,
I'm going to run you over. It's
either you or me on that power player. Now, it's on, you know, it sounds cruel to say, you know, it sounds mean to say, but it's the harsh reality, you know, on every team. And I think NAHL, like, I didn't have, like, you start setting a team in like November. Up till November, it's still kind of like tryouts. Guys are getting traded, guys are getting released, you know, guys are coming in from USHL. I would say like to November and, you know, forward, that's when you really start building a strong chemistry group.
Don't unpack your bag until November, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, I wouldn't say that, but like, that's how it is. I mean, guys are so, guys compete with their lives because they really want a chance at that D1 spot, and they know that NAHL is the league to get it. And if they want a D1 spot, you know, they need to do good, right? So they really compete with their lives to get to that D1 spot, and that's what really makes the league so special. Because like night in and night out, like, you got people really putting their hearts on the line, and they're working their ass off.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. And then, of course, You had a great year there. And were you on the PP, and were you on the first line, or how did that work for you?
Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was bouncing a little bit. Like coach liked to move around us a lot, which I think is a strong thing too. Like you can play with a lot on the team, but I had a lot of games with Drew Sutton and Joey Del Greco in the first, but honestly, I don't want to say the first because coach always said that we need to have four lines to go strong. Like it doesn't matter if it's the fourth line or the first line. Like we all played the same kind of hockey. We all played a skilled, a speedy hockey. So I don't really like saying that I played on first line. I played on second power play or whatever, because we always had that mentality that it doesn't matter what line is going out.
Yeah.
Everybody on that team could produce, and every line did so too.
Yeah. All right. So now I want to fast forward a little bit, because I think, or not fast forward, but it brings me to my second point, because I think, thank you for sharing your stories there about juniors. We could probably talk about another hour about junior stories, but the subject, or the main goal, like you're saying, everybody wants to play D1 or NCAA D1. If you don't know who I'm talking about. In your situation, when did you start thinking about college?
Yeah, probably when I was 15, 16.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, you look at YouTube hype videos, YouTube highlight videos, and you look at, everything, like everything from the hockey, the fans, like it's such a it's a cool thing.
Yeah.
Just the atmosphere and everything.
So when did you start? Did you hear from colleges when you were in with the Brahmas, or because they do have the they do have the showcase in the beginning of the year, right? So I'm sure. No, you missed the
Yeah,
showcase the first year.
I missed the showcase. Yeah.
Ah,
So I started talking to colleges actually when I played for Falun my second year. So obviously, had a pretty producive year. So I talked to two colleges at that point in D1.
and was that through
So
your
that
agent then, or your advisor? Um,
I honestly think it was both my agent and Dan, kind of. Dan got a lot of connections too, so I think he helped out, and it was kind of cold that year in Brahmas from colleges. I didn't produce a lot. I didn't play great hockey. So completely respect and understand that. So
yeah,
it got
it's
kind of
interesting.
cold.
I just think it's interesting being on the outside, and you see like the ones that are the D1 commits, NAHL players, and you see early on D1 commits. Now what you're start seeing in the middle of, or at the end of the summer here, the NAHL announcements are coming out, or now the D3 commits,
Yeah,
right? And so the top players on every team are committing early.
yeah,
And if you're not a top player on a team, you're not going to get those D1 offers. But
yeah.
you're
Yeah.
going to get lots of D3 offers, right?
Yeah, I mean D3 loves you. Like if you
Yeah.
play null, like I could come out of a game, in Odessa at December, and I had, four different D3 colleges that just wanted to take my number and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
uh, yeah.
You had a crappy game, and then you're like, oh, they still want to talk to me.
Yeah, they still want to talk to me. Holy shit. No, I actually had a good game that game actually. I scored the game winner, and it was like with 4 minutes left. So I did the heartbreak celly, right? And the whole crowd started booing me. But I really wanted to do that celly, so it was worth it.
Nice. It's all about the Instagram feeds.
No, nobody was taking photos of that, unfortunately. So
Oh man. So so at what point? So you're talking to the colleges, and you had some D1 offers. Let's go through that discussion, because I think it's really, really helpful for people who thinks everybody that plays D1 has a full ride scholarship. And let's talk about that aspect of it, and going through that recruitment process.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it's a lot of tests you need to do. It's like TOEFL, I think,
Yeah.
is one test, to seem.
I took it 30 years ago.
Yeah, yeah. So it's just the schools to kind of make sure that you know what English is at least. But then, obviously, null season starts, the showcase. Some guys are getting committed very early. They're getting approached very early. So I never had that situation where I didn't get my interest. I think I started talking to colleges after 9 games. I think my coach called me and goes like, yeah, there's a couple that I called about you. So I had a really tough start in Oklahoma too for that season. I had a really bad showcase and I was not happy with how I played. And one night down in Corpus, I actually got a new Swedish line mate. So he came down from USHL, William Ulrich.
Yeah.
So I think the second game we played together, I had a hat trick, and after that, things just kind of rolled, more easily. The confidence level were up, and I think it was just one of those moments where you'd be like, okay, I know this now. I
Yeah.
figured it out. So it was probably like after 19, 10 games, I got forward of the week or something like that, and then coach called me and be like, yeah, there's a couple of that I called about you. So, but even then, like nothing really happened. And I mean, like I want to be honest, for the players that are playing in all too, like there's a long way from when coach says that you might have some interest to it's actually a done deal. Like when coaches approach you and talk to you, like person to person, have those kind of conversations, it can go really fast. It can go like on a day. They fly you up. Like my buddy is committed. He committed to Wisconsin, the Badgers. He
Yeah.
played in Lone Star. So, I think for him it was just like, yeah, we'll get you on a plane Sunday, buddy. So I think he played like Saturday and Sunday he was on the flight up to Wisconsin. So when they actually approach you and talk to you, it can go very quick. But it's still a long way from when coaches, a little interest about you. It's a long way between there.
Yeah. But talk about the number of scholarships, because I think it's helpful for people to know that not every person. So what's a typical NCAA roster size?
I think it's around 27, 26 or something like that. They usually have 3 goalies. But I mean, they're only permitted, like the maximum they are permitted is 18, scholarships, 18 full scholarships, I believe. But they need to spread that out, right? So if they have a full scholarship and they spend it on 2 players, maybe like 75 on one and 25 on the other, they split that into half, but they still add up, and they have spent one scholarship, right?
Yep.
And if they give a full right to somebody, well, that's another scholarship gone. So like that's why teams end up having these walk-ons, right? But that's why it's so hard to, like, you have this dream and this vision that, oh, I'm getting drafted to the NAHL, and then maybe November I'm gonna sign a full ride. It ain't that easy.
Yeah.
It's not really that easy, and teams and scouts and teams, they put a lot of work into those commits too, because it's a lot of money we're talking. It's an investment for schools, right? You don't want to throw away money on a guy that's maybe not fully committed or maybe not what they want in 3 or 4 years. But it's a long process, and not everybody gets a full ride. And if you end up maybe on 50, we can talk pretty hefty tuition fees and room and board fees. So
Yeah. So that's really how you ended up now not going to college. I mean, that was your plan, right? Your linear path, here to here to here to here. But you've taken a different approach in most of your career, so I'm not surprised.
yeah, I'm not surprised either, to be honest with you.
But so
One
is that how
season in
you
one
ended up
country,
in
and
Finland?
yeah, honestly, I was a little bit tired of waiting out, the NCAA D1s. I was a little bit tired of waiting out, and I wasn't that patient, like, or or assistant captain that scored the game winner in the Robertson Cup. He actually got committed to Bentley D1 2 weeks ago. So, like he didn't really have anywhere to go till 2 weeks ago. And, then we're talking like beginning of August, right? And teams are starting to, start rolling again. So my agent, Nick DeLisi, that's been on this podcast, he called me, I think, I was actually at my billet home and he called me and he was just like, I know you want college, but I got a good route right now that I think, it's going to be interesting. And then he introduced me obviously to Mestis and FPS and it was pretty quick. I mean, I talked to GM and then I talked to head coach and then I signed pretty early in April actually.
So does that mean that you're kind of you're closing the door on the NCAA because you're now considered a professional?
Well, the contract was never official till after the season because of league rules. But when it's official, you really close the door, right?
Yeah.
Because then you're officially a pro hockey player that makes money off of hockey, right?
Yeah.
And then the amateur status goes away and you're not eligible anymore.
Yeah. But, it's at the same time, you only have so many years to play and you want to keep on rolling. And
yeah.
And it's not like you guys sitting there with a college fund like most American kids. The parents are starting to put away money to college and you got 200 grand sitting there and, you got to have to pay for college somehow.
Yeah, and I mean that was the biggest thing too. Like, yeah, I could pay those amounts, and sit with like 80,000 in student loan debts coming out of that, and still, like, I want to be honest with that too. Like, D1 is great hockey. Like, it's super great hockey, but there's no guarantee that you'll turn pro after that.
No.
There's no guarantee
you're going to play.
No, there's no guarantee you're going to play. You might end up playing 20 games over 4 years, right? Because it's high competitive. You're playing against 4 years older. And, there's no guarantee that, you're going to make something out of yourself. And, I would say that about my parents too. Like, I never expected them to be like, hey, you know what, we're going to pay for it. Because, it's like 800,000 in Swedish krona. That's a lot. And, having 5 kids too, like, you're giving one kid 800,000, you're gonna give all the others 800,000 too. So no, but it was still the same. Like, I would have taken student loan in that case, and for me it wasn't, I didn't feel comfortable with the thought that, okay, I can, have free school and free tuition in Sweden, but I'm gonna still go to US and pay, $80,000 for 4 years. So I'm sure the college experience would probably been the 4 best years of my life. That's what most guys say is coming out of it. But I'm super happy sitting in FPS right now, and I'm really glad that I'm here and trying to make the most out of it every day.
Yeah. So when's the season start for you, or is it already started?
Yeah, I mean, we started August 2nd, I think. So we have had 2 preseason games already, but the league starts at 22nd September, I think.
Yep. And bus rides?
They're pretty short, actually. So I think we got one 12-hour ride and like one 6-hour, but then it's like 2 hours, 1 hour, and I think Jokerit that's coming into Mestis too. I think that's only an hour away, so it's very short.
Are they picked as? I mean, they're back now because they were playing in the KHL and then they got shut down for a couple of years and now they're back in it, right?
Yeah, they're back in it. I mean, I think they wanted into Liga first, but I think Liga said no, so that's how they ended up in Mestis. So
yeah, so
it will be fun.
Explain that too. So Liga is the highest division in Finland and Mestis is the second, like Hockeyallsvenskan in Sweden, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's the second league here after Liga. But Liga is actually closed. You can't get promoted. So
okay.
It's actually a big debate here in Finland right now because they want to open up like they have in Sweden. But the only way to go up to Liga if you like have a 5,000 arena and you have a shit ton of money.
Yeah.
You know, that's the only way to get approved really for Liga. It's some, you know, amount, maybe like 20 million or stuff like that you need to have, you know, to go up to Liga. So
Like Jokerit.
yeah, like Jokic, they're pretty loaded, I would assume, with that fan base. But you know, we still have our own playoff here and stuff like that. So usually it works like AHL and NHL. Like usually the teams here have one kind of like farmer, you know, we're the farmer team to a Liga team.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we are the farmer team to Hopico in the Liga.
Okay.
HPK.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Last question. Well, two things that we got to do. You're 20 years old now. You meet yourself at 17. What would you, you've gone through, you're well traveled, you've well experienced, but what would you tell your younger self if you met him sitting on the bench right now? What advice would you have him that you wish you would have had back then that you know now?
Just, I think keep your head up like every day. And like, I used to lay a lot of pressure in single moments. Like if I missed a breakaway, if I missed a penalty shot, like when I was younger, I had so much, you know, it was the end of the world for me kind of thing, right? And I think that I would just tell him to, there's no worries. Like you'll come back the next day and you'll think that process, you know, the situation over again, and you'll go through it and, you know, work on it. And next time you get into that situation, you know, you might make it. But, you know, don't put too much pressure on one situation, one game or something like that.
Great advice. Great advice. All right. Last thing, you know, we're doing a kind of a partnership with Target Aid that we're highlighting each guest's klubben i mitt hjärta, the team in my heart. Which one is it for you?
Wow, you're putting me in a tough spot right now. I'm gonna need to say Falun.
That's awesome. All right. We will
Yeah.
highlight, and your brother plays there now, Division 1.
Yeah.
The home of Thomas Jonsson, number 2, is in the rafters. He's still in the
Yeah,
organization.
yeah.
Yep. So we will highlight that on our targetaid.com site, and we will help promote them. And thanks for jumping on. It's been fun. You've got such a cool journey. A lot of people can benefit really from listening, and there's a lot of wisdom in the experience that you've gone through, and I think it's going to be helpful for people that are, whether you're playing U16 in Sweden and you never want to play in the US, the advice and your experience kind of helps out, I think, for anyone. So thanks for coming on, and good luck the rest of the season.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been great.
All right, thanks. Fan vad bra. Det var ju skitkul.
Ja, men det var kul. Jag har aldrig varit med i en sån här podcast förut. Det längsta jag haft till att snacka om mig själv så här länge, det var en Hockey-Sverige-artikel liksom.
Ja, var det Ronny Rönnqvist?
Ja, exakt faktiskt.
Han är grym. Han är grym.
Ja.
Jag försökte få med honom faktiskt på podden också.
Ja.
Nej, det är kul.
Nej, men det är kul.
Så mycket som du snackar om som farsa. Alltså Erik är ju gått en väldigt nära väg som du har gjort.
Ja, absolut.
Så att han vet att det är stentufft, så vi valde Mariestad för att få ett år på sig och bygga upp kroppen och sen köra järnet i vår. Vi hoppas att han kommer att få en tender. Troligtvis kommer han inte att få det, så vi får lov att slåss igen på main camp.
Ja. Men annars så, alltså skulle han vid jul där känna att han kanske skulle vilja åka över, så hade jag ändå rekommenderat NCDC. För det är, alltså vill man ta steget upp till NAHL så är NCDC en väldigt bra liga för det. Min bror lirar själv där efter han blev cut då.
Ja, det är lite annorlunda nu, för de hade den här är nu NCDC West.
Jaha.
Så Utah, um,
Pueblo Bulls.
Pueblo, de är nu i NCDC och det är ju bra. Men problemet med dem är att jag vet inte hur det funkar med om man måste vara så jävla försiktig med att de tar upp en och sen så skickar de ner och tar jävla betalt i USPHL istället.
Jävligt försiktig med det. Du har helt rätt när du säger det. Det är många svenskar som åker över på chans ungefär. Hoppas jag får NCDC. För NCDC i sig är ju en väldigt bra liga. Det är inget fel på den ligan. Och de får sina D1-commits också såklart.
Ja.
Speciellt om du gör inte age-out då såklart.
Ja.
Nu är ju sonen din 05 och det är ju en bra ålder för han har ju några år kvar då.
Ja, precis. Och sen kan han också använda Sverige som backup. Som om man går och kör NCDC eller NAHL och får att bli cut, så kan jag ju åka till Sverige och köra.
Ja, men exakt.
Och komma med i ett J20-lag som 05 sista året är ju en jättebra backup-plan.
Ja, och sen så har han ju varit i Sverige, men det är lite kul ändå att du säger, alltså, jag hade ju koll på han innan du kontaktade mig. Men jag hade ju ingen aning, alltså jag följer ju Falun fortfarande.
Ja.
Så jag visste ju redan då vem han var, att han var back i Falun förut då.
Ja.
Men jag hade ju ingen aning om att han för jag visste faktiskt om att han var med på Lone Stars camp förra året.
Jaha. Nej, han var inte med i Lone Star förra året.
Men vilken säsong var han inte på main camp förra året i Lone Star?
Han var på pre-draft.
Ja, men pre-draft camp. Ja. För mina billets, de känner headcoachen väldigt bra. Så jag hade faktiskt koll på att han var där på den campen.
Ja, det var uppe i Chicago.
För sen så sökte jag också upp, han direkt då.
Jaha.
För du vet, vanlig intresse liksom grej liksom. Men en svensk var nere i Lone Star, då lär jag veta vem det är liksom.
Ja.
Så grej liksom. Och sen så såg jag att han hamnade i Falun då.
Ja, och han var ju inte, han är inte svensk om man säger så. In hans identitet.
Nej.
Så att,
nej, han är ju amerikan-svensk liksom.
Ja, så att nu har ju han.
Men mina bilder sa då, för jag kommer ihåg det.
Ja, det var intressant för att vi hade ju kontakt med Bloom och Jeff Colson.
Ja, exakt.
Och sådana saker. Så att nu hade ju han ett jävligt bra camp. Alltså han kom med. Han var sista det var så här jävligt nära att han kom med i training camp. Och det hade varit. Men de sa ju så här att vi vet var du ska någonstans. Vi känns jättebra att du ska åka dit. För att även om du kommer med på training camp så tror jag inte att du är redo att komma med på final roster. Så det är lika bra att du åker. Liksom.
Ja, alltså sätter han inte en av 3 hål. För det finns ingen idé med det.
De ville ju ha honom i Texas Brahmas förra året. Och jag sa liksom nej, vi ska till Sverige.
Ja, det finns ingen anledning.
Nej, och sen har han en skitbra situation nu när han. Okej, visserligen så är de kommer ju inte att vara ett topplag i region, men där får de ju träna och spela och så får han träna med A-laget i Hockeyettan.
Ja. Nej, men det var ju som du sa om Falun också. Vi var inte bra. Alltså vi kom ju 8 liksom, men vi spelade ju mot bra spelare, men jag var ändå första liksom. Jag var första PP, jag hade liksom 20 minuter per match. Jag menar, det spelar ingen roll om Mariestad ligger sist, om ändå han får 20 minuter per is och kan göra någon pinne liksom här och där liksom. Det är ändå bra för honom.
Utvecklingen. Sen går han på hockeygymmet också nu. Eller han går inte på hockeygymmet, men han får träna med hockeygymskillarna. Han tar en svensk kurs där. Så att Och i och med det så får han också studiebidrag på CSN.
Jaha, ja, det är ju smart.
Och gratis lunch.
Ja, absolut. Men
Så att,
går han någon form av, alltså amerikansk,
så han gjorde så här. Han gjorde klart high school förra året. Här.
okej.
Och sen körde han 2 community college classes här. Online.
Okej. Ja,
Så nu tar han tar en per kvartal. Så han har en mattekurs på college.
ja.
Så länge som man tar en less than full load så bränner man inte eligibility för NCAA.
Nej, jag läste det också.
Och så att så han tar bara en mattekurs och så kommer han ta en teaterkurs eller något sånt där i november. Och sen
Ja.
så han kommer att ta liksom 12 credit hours i ett år istället för 12 credit hours i en termin.
Ja, men det är ju smart ändå.
Så att han håller liksom tån i och går i skolan.
Ja,
Så att om han gör det varje år, ända tills han är klar med juniors, då kanske han har kört 1,5 år av 4 års utbildningen.
ja, exakt.
Det kommer att bli svårare och svårare för att det finns inte så många online-kurser att ta.
Nej.
Men det kan ju vara så här att om man hamnar i Lone Star eller Oklahoma eller Springfield, spelar ingen roll, så kanske han kan ta in-person college.
Ja, exakt. På någon community college liksom.
Ja, precis.
Mitt första år i NHL så gick jag tredje sista året då. Så jag gick faktiskt online från Sverige då.
Jaha, jag skulle fråga om du gjorde klart. Så du har tagit studenten?
Jag har tagit studenten, men jag gick online då. Så mitt sista år var online. Så det var, bara det var en utmaning kan jag säga. Alltså jättebra skola, men ibland kunde det vara prov liksom. Och då var det 3 på morgonen en tisdag liksom. Och så gå upp klockan 2:50, trycka i sig en knock och liksom skriva provet. Efter provet, då är liksom klockan 4:30. Då kan du inte gå och lägga dig. Och du ska ändå upp klockan 6 för att åka till rinken och träna liksom. Så några veckor så blev det ju liksom 5 timmars sömn i snitt liksom. Du skulle upp och vara med på någon lektion eller någonting sånt.
Ja. Hur var dina billetföräldrar? Var det bra?
Så fruktansvärt bra på båda ställena.
Ja,
Mina billets Oklahoma var faktiskt i Sverige i somras och hälsade på mig.
Coolt.
Så,
Ja, det där är...
jag väntar fortfarande på ringen faktiskt. Så.
Ja, nej men vann ni alltså?
Ja, vi vann allting.
Nej men fan, det visste inte om.
Ja, nej, det står på Elite Prospect nu också i troféskåpet. Så
Okej.
ja, det är bästa dagen i mitt liv faktiskt.
Okej, fan, det visste inte jag om. Jag hade så dålig koll på highlights där, NAHL. Ja, det ser jag nu.
Ja, alltså det var jävla kul.
Ja, men du, då får vi ta det på del 2 en gång.
Ja,
Vi kan snacka lite finsk hockey och sen så får vi highlighta kanske någonting om Championship. Det finns så mycket att snacka om också, det här med alltså Blaine spela slutspel i NAHL och
Ja, det var helt sjukt. Alltså första dagen så var det bara liksom mediaporträtt och några skulle ha intervjuer och skit, alltså sånt skit liksom. Så det är väldigt upphausat. Och sen så, jag har faktiskt en rolig historia som jag inte berättar nu då, men så nyårsafton, match på nyårsafton mot Brahmas. Brahmas ligger först då i serien. Och vi ligger 2 då. Så vi var aldrig det där upphausade laget från start till mål liksom. Vi var liksom, det var vi och Brahmas, men vi var klart 2 före jul. Vi torskar 4-2 och coachen liksom, han kommer in, slänger soptunnan i väggen liksom, han är helt rasande. Hjälper inte, vi förlorar ändå liksom 4-2. Så kommer vi tillbaka där klockan 1 på natten liksom. Så har vi möte, man ska gå in en och en till coachen liksom. säga vad man tyckte att liksom, var dåligt då. Och jag tror att de flesta i laget, typ så här, de amerikanska bara, det är för att vi är pussis. Och jag som svensk sitter där och bara, vad fan sa han? Så, men i alla fall, han kommer in så här, vi är klara med det här mötet då, krismötet ungefär. Vi ligger fortfarande 2:a, okej? Det är inget krismöte om man ligger 2:a. Kom igen. Men coachen kommer in. Alltså klockan är, det är lördag, nyårsafton. Det har precis blivit 1 januari liksom. Klockan är 1:45. Och jag kommer ihåg det här såklart. Alla vi sitter där liksom, vi är helt spända liksom. Vi har ju, alltså han skäller ut oss. Vi har en diskussion om matchen och så säger han så här: vill ni vinna det här så är ni på is om 15 minuter. Klockan är 1:45 1 januari. Det har liksom gått 1:45 av det nya året. Och vi torskar mot serieledarna. Alltså det är ändå så här. Ja, i alla fall. Dra på. Jag kommer ihåg, jag drar på mig en hoodie fast utan den här huvan då. För alla mina grejer var ju helt dyngsura från matchen.
Ja.
Alltså alla underställ, strumpor. Alltså jag tycker det är värsta känslan någonsin när man drar på sig det. Så jag drar på mig liksom så här mjukisbyxor, hoodie under liksom så här. Och sen drar på mig grejerna. Så kommer vi ut där 2:00 då. Alla kommer ju ut där liksom och så. Det var inga puckar ute kan jag säga.
Det var bara suicide.
Det var bara suicides liksom, fram och tillbaka och liksom, jag tror vi till och med körde den som var sist fick åka igen liksom. Och det är också det där tävlingsmomentet hela tiden. Det spelar ingen roll om att det är nytt år, det är 2 på natten, vill ni vinna det här då är vi ute och kör nu liksom. Så kom det fram dagen efter att det var en kille som kissade på sig på isen. För han var för rädd för att säga att du eller gå och kissa. Så han kissar på sig mitt under liksom bagskaten som vi kallar det liksom. Men jag måste ändå säga det, vi hade så fruktansvärt sjuk i huvudgrupp nästan på ett sätt. Så efter den där timmen är klar, då sitter vi och skrattar i omklädningsrummet ungefär som att ja, alltså det här var ju sjuk liksom 1 januari att göra liksom. Men alltså, och jag har tänkt på det momentet efteråt liksom. Hur sjuk i huvudet måste man vara som grupp om man sitter och skrattar liksom efter en timmes bagskate liksom. Så, men det finns några roliga historier sådär liksom som
Otroligt.
Ja, man
Det
är
är
inte
en
med
sån-
om det i Sverige.
Ja, men alltså det är det som drar en vidare sen när allting gäller.
Ja, absolut.
Alltså det är liten marginal mellan för hårt och inte hårt nog.
Ja, jo så är det ju. Jag kan
Just,
säga att vi körde bagskates måndag, tisdag. Ungefär 20 minuter i snitt varje måndag och tisdag.
ja.
Och vissa träningar då hade vi inte puckar alls på måndag, tisdag faktiskt. Då var det 1,5 timme bara liksom fram och tillbaka. Och det var svårt att stå alltså på isen efter liksom en halvtimme.
Jag tycker
Men det finns många sjuka historier sådär liksom.
du ska kolla, har du kollat på Netflix? Har du Netflix i Finland?
Ja, jag har faktiskt det.
Har du kollat på den här serien med Urban Meyer med Florida Gators?
Nej, det är college-laget de följer va?
Ja, men det var alltså, jag kollar på avsnitt 1. Kolla på det nästa gång du kollar på tv. Vad du beskriver, det är alltså Tim Tebow och den här gruppen,
Ja.
när han var första året och det var liksom att de var uppe mitt i natten och körde gympass.
Ja.
Och de hade en sån här grej att om du presterade, då var du champion. Alltså de hade labels på spelare att då fick du bättre mat än en som inte presterar inom samma lag.
Men oj jävlar.
Och alltså om du var en presterare, då fick du vad du ville. Om du inte presterade, då fick du lov att servera till andra. Det var liksom väldig hierarki.
Ja, bara från gymmet liksom.
Ja, och nej, det var inte bara gymmet, men alltså speltid.
Ja, hela tiden.
Allting var så dog eat dog. You either produce or you don't.
Ja, jo. Kill or be kill, det säger de ju hela tiden också.
Ja, så gjorde de såna här brottningsmatcher.
Ja, jo, jag har sett dem också. Helt sjuka.
Ja, och det var ju liksom det värsta folk har varit med om. Liksom. Jag var så otroligt trött och det var liksom allting var inriktat på att vem kommer att vara alpha dog?
Ja,
Vem ger sig? Det är ungefär som Marines gör på basic när de gör får ringa klockan och sådär.
ja, exakt.
Vem ger upp?
Ja. Nej, men fy fan. Ja, men det, alltså jag känner igen mig lite i de där grejerna. Vi hade The Gauntlet hette det.
Ja.
Och du kan ju räkna ut vad det är. Så vi har liksom, alla ställer upp sig i en zon. Alltså ungefär 1,5 meter från sargen. Så hela runt liksom. Och så ska en spelare bara fortsätta mata igenom alla. Han ska få en tackling av varje spelare liksom. Och liksom man ska bara mata sig igenom liksom 20 pers liksom. Och det var, alltså jag kom dit första träningen och jag tänkte, vad fan är det här för någonting?
Ja.
Liksom det var liksom, och vi hade ju, alltså amerikanare är lite sådär att när det blir sådana där grejer då, alltså de blir nästan lite psykopater. Alltså de blir, nu jävlar liksom, nu ska jag döda dig liksom. Och jag sitter där och bara, för helvete har han kommit till? Alltså, och så liksom, först det här med hur sjukt alltså bagskate var, så jag har aldrig varit med om så mycket bagskate. Och jag kommer ändå från superelit liksom, alltså vi har tränat hårt.
Ja.
Men jag har aldrig i hela mitt liv tränat så hårt. Alltså, man kunde komma in till måndagen. Alltså jag hade inte ens ångest av att komma till måndagen något mer liksom i slutet av säsongen. För jag visste redan vad det skulle vara.
Ja, visst.
Jag visste att vi skulle ställa upp på line liksom. Och jag gjorde en tävling. Jag sa, vi hade double. Så det var ju liksom som idioten varje liksom blå tillbaka. Fast vi hade det dubbelt då.
Ja.
Och jag hade 9 raka vinster faktiskt. Så jag brukade ligga så här en halv plan liksom före på sista rundan. Så brukade jag göra liksom 4 till assistant coach. Så för 4 raka vinster liksom. Så till slut så blev ju jag liksom, alla skulle slå mig. Så de började vadslå med de andra. Ja men okej. Så de började vadslå med den som var näst snabbast. Liksom. Du, alltså jag köper din lunch om du slår Malte nu. Och liksom sådana grejer. Och assistant coach kommer fram och bara, den som slår Malte, jag ger han $10. Och liksom sådana där grejer. Och det var sjukt faktiskt. Men jag kan säga att alla de där grejerna gjorde att vi vann. För vi var inte bästa lag till finalen. Det kan jag säga. Jag tror vi torskade skottet med 22-37. Förlorar du skottet med 22-37, du ska förlora matchen också.
Ja.
I vanliga fall är det så. Men jag vet inte vad det är. Men det är nästan som en NAHL South aura liksom.
Ja.
Och jag tror att NAHL South har vunnit 4 senaste 8 åren. Om du tänker att det är 4 divisioner. Det är rätt så dominant av South då liksom.
Ja.
Men jag har ingen annan förklaring än att South liksom bygger lagen olika. Den där sista pucken, när pucken ska ut liksom, eller när det handlar om att spela disciplinerat. Jag tror verkligen att det finns en South-effekt när man kommer upp till Robertson Cup-finalen då.
Ja, nej, men det där, vi måste snacka om det där del 2, för att det tycker jag är det är en sak att komma till NAHL, det är en helt annan sak om att vinna ett mästerskap. Känner du Jack Carlson?
Spelade för New Jersey Titans, men jag känner inte han personligen.
Ja, hans farsa Jocke är ju han var ju ungdomsansvarig i Leksand.
Ja, just det, Jocke Karlsson.
Ja. Så han har ju 2 grabbar, Jack och Lucas. Lucas är 05 back som spelar nu för
Också
Titans.
i New Jersey.
Och,
gjorde en match i NHL förra året tror jag.
Ja, 3 tror jag blev det.
3 tror jag till och med.
Ja, så han spelar i våren, var han ju med och tränade hela efter jul med NAHL-laget. Så de har ju J18 AAA och så har de NAHL inom samma organisation. Och Jack spelar nu D3.
Ja.
Han spelar ju J20 i Färjestad, nationell, och så kommer han över spela, så han spelar ju bara en år i NAHL. Och han är ju inte så jävla stor, men han var med och vann.
Ja, jo, jag såg det också.
Och Och så det är ganska intressant konversation. Men Jocke är jäkligt kul grabb. Han jobbar för Volvo uppe i Maryland. Så han och jag har ganska bra kontakt också. Och i och med att Erik och Lukas är ju en jävla stor grabb. Han är ju 100 kilo.
Och fy fan.
Eller han är 90 kilo. Är det väl. Han är 200 pounds. Så inte en liten grabb som 05. Så att han...
Nej, det är rätt så stort för 05.
Så han spelar ju... Så han är ju liksom... Han kan spela North American Hockey League som 05 i år.
Ja.
Och det är inte så många 05, speciellt backar som spelar i NAHL.
Nej. Det är en väldigt gammal liga.
Ja, så därför är det liksom... Har jag sagt till Erik liksom, det är ju... Ta det lugnt. Ha ingen skynda på. Du kommer ha 2 säsonger kvar efter den här säsongen. Det kan hända att det går skitbra och du kommer in direkt. Eller också kan det bli att det inte går bra. Men du stänger absolut inga dörrar att åka till Sverige.
Nej, fan. Snarare du öppnar dem.
Ja.
Jag menar, skulle han göra det bra så kan han få spela division 1. Och skulle han göra det bra så kanske det blir superelit året efter. Men han har sån fruktansvärd fördel. Och jag är lite avundsjuk för att han just är amerikan då.
Ja.
För jag menar, han kan åka till... Skulle han vara att, nej du vet, jag trivs inte alls i Mariestad och jag skulle vilja komma tillbaka. Ja, men då kan han sätta sig liksom i bilen upp till Kanada och liksom spela MJHL, liksom SJHL, vilket är alltså fruktansvärt bra ligor fortfarande.
Ja.
Och alltså NAHL-lagen värvar fruktansvärt många från just MJHL, SJHL, och jag är fruktansvärt nörd. Så jag har ju koll på liksom alla de ligorna med OJHL, AJHL.
Ja.
Och just den där liksom att det fan var kul med just de här möjligheterna att ett lag i MJHL vill ha mig, jag åker upp och testar liksom.
Ja, och så man har ju liksom mycket möjligheter och att man inte behöver räkna som en import är väldigt stort. Och
det är väldigt stort.
Och vad vi försöker göra nu är ju liksom lära oss hur håller man sig bäst framför lagen, så att, för att de är ju så lata.
Ja.
Man måste ju ha det så här så att varje vecka så ska du få en uppdatering genom Instat och alltså det blir ju en marknadskampanj som han måste göra.
Ja, absolut.
För annars blir han glömd.
Ja, jo men det blir man absolut, och jag känner igen mig i det så också. Och det är därför NAHL är en liten djungel, framförallt innan man kommer in i det.
Ja. Och det är bra nu då. Så nu Ryan Anderson som var i Brahmas.
Amarillo nu.
Han är i Amarillo. Och så det är ju bra. Jag tyckte det var skitbra.
Ja.
Han känner Erik, han var där på camp. Han hanterar mycket av kommunikationen. Okej, nu har vi 2 lag. Så det är ju bara liksom bygga varje lag så att de vet. Och ju mer folk som vill ha ju mer attraktion blir det.
Min agent gjorde faktiskt en highlight-video på mig och skickade ut.
Ja.
Och jag kan säga att det är därför jag landade med Brahmas.
Ja, jo men och det måste vara en sån här... Först och främst så är jag pratade med Mike Bloom om det här. För att de säger så här att vi kollar inte på svenskarna. Vi är jätteintresserade av svenskar, men jag kan inte kolla på svenskarna förrän jag vet att de är intresserade att komma hit.
Ja, annars är det ju värdelöst.
Nej, för att om du kollar på en svensk som vill gå vidare inom Sverige, jag har inte tid att kolla på dig. Men om du säger att du ska hit, då är jag jätteintresserad.
Ja.
Och då vill jag ha den här highlight-videon först. Det blir liksom hook. Ja. Sen går de in på Instat och tar hand om resten.
Ja, absolut.
Så att du behöver inte göra så här helmatcher. Du behöver bara ha highlights.
Ja, exakt. Det är då de egentligen För jag skickade highlight-video och sen skickade han en scout. Så då liksom, vi pratade och sen skickade han en scout.
Ja.
Liksom allt var liksom, okej, jag gillar det, jag kommer skicka en scout. Och sen när scouten har kommit in med en rapport om dig, då pratar vi igen.
Ja.
Och jag hade väl tur nog, alltså det är ju så, hockey är så jävla flytsport. När har du din dag på isen liksom? Det är verkligen så. Och jag kommer ihåg att jag hade två assist och det gick bra. Och efter det så var jag klar liksom.
Och sen är det också det här med att det är en väldigt liten värld. Så att
Ja.
om du har ett bra rykte, då sprids det ryktet ganska sakta. Men har du ett dåligt rykte, då sprids det som fort som fan.
Sprids snabbt.
Men är man bra och har bra rykte och bra person och bra i locker room och kör järnet, det är liksom de här som man måste göra.
De bockar av liksom i kolumnen hela tiden liksom efter varje.
Sen är det liksom som du har ju fightat att du är liten.
Ja, jo.
Om man är stor så är det en jäkla fördel.
NAHL, det är en så fruktansvärd fördel. Det är verkligen det. Och liksom, det är nästan, nu har jag gjort en nisch liksom, att vara liten, jag är snabb och liksom, jag är inte power forward. Jag kommer aldrig vara power forward. Och det har liksom blivit min nisch liksom. Men liksom, är du stor så, för jag visste ju att när jag kom till NHL så, först så är jag en port och sen så är jag liten också. Och jag vet att jag är ingen boxplay-spelare. Så jag vet att oavsett liksom, jag behöver slå mig in i topp 2 och en PP-lina.
Ja.
Annars vet jag att de kommer skicka mig. För jag vet att, och coachen vet det också, jag är värdelös i fjärde linan. Jag är värdelös i PK. Jag är värdelös i liksom fjärde linan. Så jag visste att det är som import och liten.
Ja.
Så visste jag att tar jag inte plats i första 2 nu.
Men då vet du vad expectations are, du vet vad förutsättningarna är, du vet vad som gäller. Och sen vet du också vilka som slåss om den gruppen. Så det är ju bara att jag behöver inte oroa mig om 25 spelare, jag behöver bara oroa mig om 8.
Nej. Exakt, liksom. Och då tonar man ner. Och sen så, alltså, för att vara liksom ultra competitive och liksom ha den där extra liksom instinkten som bara kickar in, då lär du ha lite sån här. Till exempel jag åkte till HPK förra veckan då. Hade 1+1 mot dem liksom, som spelade liga. Men jag gick in med liksom mindseten att jag ställde upp på tekning, jag hade en ytterforward och så tänkte jag ska fan med ta ditt jobb nu.
Mm.
Och det är lite den mentaliteten du behöver ha. Och det låter ju nästan, det låter så osvenskt, eller hur? För svenskar, där är vi liksom...
Jag skulle ha sagt det tidigare, det är ju absolut inte svenskt.
Det är absolut inte svenskt liksom, utan svenskarna, vi ska inte trampa någon på tårna. Okej? Och vi ska gärna liksom, vi är kompisar här liksom, det är lugnt liksom, det är ingen fara. Men du lär ha den här extra switchen att jag ska ta ditt jobb, du spelar i högsta ligan i Finland och jag vill ha den platsen. Då ska jag ta ditt jobb och jag ska outcompete you, som de älskar att använda. Jag ska först outcompete you och sen ska jag outplay you. Men det är så osvenskt.
Ja, jag hade den här konversationen med Erik efter första matchen i Brahmas. Spelar jävligt bra, då frågar jag liksom. Och jag vill ju inte, jag är ju försiktig och vara så här. Jag är ju mer tränare för honom än jag är farsa. Så jag hade den här konversationen och så sa jag liksom, vad tyckte du då? Ja, det gick bra. Vad tyckte du kunde göra bättre? Och det var ju liksom, play with a little bit more nastiness.
Ja,
och det var precis
det är just det.
Och det var precis det jag var efter också, att så länge som man vet det, du måste ju gå dit och du behöver inte vara med i en fight, men
Nej.
och så nu när han spelar i Sverige, jag kan ju inte kolla på någonting, men jag ska skicka det de spelar träningsmatch mot Karlskoga.
Ja.
De förlorar 8-2. Och de var mycket bättre än andra laget. Men han var inne på två mål. Ett var ett powerplay-mål.
Ja.
Då var det en kille som gjorde Svechnikov. Alltså Michigan-mål.
Michigan-mål.
Rakt i ansiktet på en. Eller var inte... Men liksom, han var så jävla förbannad att det här... Jag tyckte det var generande.
Ja.
Men om du kollar på det, jag sa så här, men det var ingenting du kunde göra där. Det är ju...
Nej.
Du har 2 killar framför mål som du försöker hålla i check. Och så är det en bakom mål och han står så jäkla långt ifrån mållinjen. Och får fortfarande in den.
Ja.
Jag tyckte
Ja,
det var...
nej.
Stå där och applådera nästan, är det nästan som måste göra, för det var jävligt bra.
Ja, nej, men absolut. Det är bara hatten av nästan på sådana konstmål.
Ja, visst. Du, jag måste göra lite jobb, ja. Det här var lunchrasten för mig. Så...
Ja, men absolut, gör så.
Kul att höras av. Sen jag lägger in det här, jag gör lite trim och sen, jag tror att det tar 3 eller 4 veckor, så släpper vi det sen. Det kommer på måndag morgonen.
Ja, men det är bara att höra av när du vill ha hur man vinner NAHL sen, liksom en go-to.
Ja då, det tar vi med.
Ja, absolut.
Ha det bra.
Ha det bra, vi hörs, hej.
Hej.